Welcome back. This would ordinarily be the takeout. It is not. We are continuing our special rolling coverage of a devastating and awful bit of breaking news here in the nation's capital. 2:15 p.m. local time. Two members of the National Guard deployed from West Virginia shot in what has been described by authorities as a brazen and ambush-style shooting. They are in critical condition at a Washington, D.C. hospital. The suspect in custody, wounded in a exchange of fire thereafter, also at a hospital in serious condition, we are told. Former FBI Special Agent Katherine Schweit joins me now. Katherine, walk my audience through what's going on internally at the FBI now, because it has lead jurisdictional responsibility here, but it works very closely historically with the Metropolitan Police and other federal agencies. Everyone's all on deck for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's on deck. I feel for the people in West Virginia who are currently on the highway, leaving food behind in their refrigerators and on their tables, and everybody there saying lots of prayers for them. But for the FBI, they're hand in hand with the law enforcement officers who are in town already. A murder that occurs in D.C. is also a D.C. jurisdictional, issue too. So there'll be federal charges and state charges if the subject remains alive and he's charged, for sure. And the most important thing, as in the law enforcement team in the federal enclave of Washington, D.C., where I used to work, there are probably 20 some agencies there, and they all know how to work together. They have task forces that work together. So everybody's going to be signing out and working on their particular thing. And in the FBI's case, they're concerned about making sure that they create that federal nexus. We have a law enforcement officer who is federal, so clearly that nexus is already there. And then we're going to piece it together very carefully to make sure that we have a very, very Loctite law enforcement to the courtroom case where we have all the facts that we need in order to charge whatever we want to charge.
Katherine, the West Virginia governor said that the two guards personnel died. They did not. They're in critical condition. The entire state of West Virginia and probably the entire country writ large praying for their continued ability to stay alive and medical attention, keeping them alive, and they're in the best possible place they can be for that remedy, which we all pray for. The governor then had to retract that. That's part of the difficulty in a situation like this. Sam Vinograd mentioned the imperative to be transparent, but also in that effort to be transparent and rapid and to respond rapidly, you have to get your facts straight. And this one was a bungled misstatement of fact that sent shockwaves across the country. And its retraction put this story in a very different space, a much better space, and we are hopeful for those two guard personnel. Any other thoughts you have about the limited set of facts we know before us?
Yeah, I think that what you just mentioned is a kind of an example of why we really have to go and trust our law enforcement officers to gather the facts and then hold the press conferences. And I respect that politicians can do and say what they want, but you got to get the right information right, because you only get one time to do it. I would just add that, tomorrow, and you think about what we're doing tomorrow, there's a Macy's Day Parade, and tomorrow there are parades and other activities around the country. Law enforcement, rest assured, is reassessing right now everything that they're doing in fear and concern to protect not only the citizens in the United States, the people who will be at those parades, but also the law enforcement officers who are there to protect citizens.
And Katherine, Nicole Skanga brought this to our attention earlier this hour. Fraternal Order of Police underscoring the rise in targeted ambush-style shootings of law enforcement, police, federal and otherwise. That's now, it feels, part of law enforcement conversation day in and day out. How to prepare, how to adapt, how to be more vigilant.
Yeah, Major, great point, because I can tell you my data, it shows that if you look at the last 15 years, there's been a steady increase in law enforcement targeted violence. 1 out of every 7 incidents that we think of as targeted violence on the street, it actually is targeted against law enforcement, not to necessarily people in a school or in a mall or at a house of worship. So that's very significant. Law enforcement has had to, especially since 2010, the numbers have gone exponential in terms of targeted targeting law enforcement. And that has to be part of their preparation. They have to know that even if and this includes fire and emergency responders, if they get a call and they're going to a scene, they may be going to the scene so they can be targeted.
And Katherine, do you have any experience or thoughts on the long-term efficacy of National Guard working in this high visibility patrolling system in urban environments? Because the FBI is there all the time, Metropolitan Police of whatever jurisdiction, always there, maybe county police are there. How about the National Guard? And does this in any way create a different kind of conversation about how useful that is, or does it create a potential of harm for the National Guard that may not have been anticipated at the front end of all this?
Yeah, I think I like a lot of law enforcement, a lot of federal officials waiting for the shoe to drop. We all were afraid that this would happen, and I know that National Guard comes in. They don't know the streets. They're not trained to be tactical, patrols in the streets in a city they don't even know, and it's its own challenge. You can't. I'm a retired law enforcement, but FBI, right? I go into St. Louis. I don't know the streets. I'm not a patrol officer, and oftentimes the people who are deployed are the younger members of the National Guard, and the value of that is visibility, right? Potential deterrence, but also risk. There are huge numbers of law enforcement already in Washington, D.C. It's not a big area. So I understand now they're talking about deploying another 500. And to me, as selfishly, I guess, as a law enforcement officer, I feel that is 500 more National Guard officers, officials who might be, National Guard soldiers who might be at risk.
Former FBI Special Agent Katherine Schweit, thank you very much. I appreciate it.